Probably should hit record. Dude, that would have sucked. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm recording. Everything's good.
Hey, I'm Rusty Cooley. Welcome to this week's episode of Guitar Autopsy. I'm here with my co-host, Zachary Adkins, and we have a special guest today, Bill Hudson, in the waiting room. And I'm going to turn it over to Zach here for a second and have him tell you a little bit about Bill.
All right, so Bill Hudson's a good buddy of mine. He's from Brazil, but he moved to America to start in a band called Cellador back in the early 2000s. And he actually moved to Omaha, which is where I'm from, Nebraska, to start this band. Yeah, right. Yeah, that's what I asked him. I was like, why Omaha? But I'll ask him again when he gets on here. But I guess that must have been where the band was founded. But, so he played with a bunch of people locally here. And this was before, I think I was still in high school and everything. So I had heard about him just from everybody from Omaha saying, oh, you got to hear this other guitar player, Bill, because he's amazing. He was probably one of the best guitar players in town. And Cellador took off. They did a bunch of touring and stuff. I think they toured with Bullet for My Valentine and a couple other big bands at the time. So we'll ask him more about that when he gets on. But anyway, a bunch of people that I went to college with took lessons with him, actually.
Oh, that's cool. When I didn't know he taught up there.
Yeah. So they would always be like, oh, yeah, I took lessons from Bill Hudson. And I had remember seeing him on Guitar World magazine when he was doing some 7-string stuff. Which was still pretty new, actually. I think, back in the early 2000s, it hadn't really caught on.
Yeah, I can't remember if I saw him first on MTV or that metal MTV Headbangers. It wasn't the Headbangers Ball. It was something else that they played back in the 2000s.
Yeah. But
I think I saw a Cellador video on there where I saw in a small interview or something like that in Guitar World or Guitar Player or something. And then I went out and bought the album. I got my copy of Cellador.
Yeah. Sweet. He's a great player, man. He's kind of more like the classic shredder type, he likes Yngwie, he likes those guys. So he wasn't influenced by maybe the newer styles of guitar playing, What's that?
I said no shame in that.
Nah, dude. If Yngwie's your main inspiration, you got nothing wrong with your life. Maybe if, you're
on the right track.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, looks like he's in the waiting room now. So we can ask him on.
Yes, I can see both of you at the same time now. Awesome.
All right, much better, man.
Man, I wish I had a red background too. You guys are awesome. I just look like a bad guy.
Yeah, yeah. It's a work in progress, man. It's
killer. Nice chatting, Rusty. It's been a while, man.
Yeah, bro. It has been a minute. So how you been?
Good, really good. Trying to stay alive, trying to figure out ways to make money.
Yeah, right. I think we're all trying to do that, man.
Yeah,
for sure. So, what are some ways you've been generating some revenue in these weird times?
Well, so I went back to teaching guitar, something that I hadn't done, at least not to this extent. I haven't done that in a long time. Man, I think last time that I had consistent students was 2009 or something.
Yeah,
and I haven't really taught other than maybe sometimes I'll do lessons on the road and stuff like that, But I haven't taught consistently since then because I've been doing the whole touring thing. I've been with so many different artists, so that's been kind of the main thing I've been doing. But I'm also, I have to say that most of my time, 80% of my time, I would say, has been spent on doing my new album, which is not generating me money, But that's mostly what I use the pandemic to do, from the very beginning.
Well, that's awesome, man. It's no better time to take advantage of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
For sure. So how's that coming?
Actually, we're almost done. We're almost done mixing. Right today, I got the last first mix. So to speak. We're working with producer Dennis Ward.
Nice.
He's known for Pink Rain 69, Angra, the new Halloween album.
Okay, cool.
And it was a crazy experience because we did we did online production. I had never heard of that before. And using this software called Audio Movers, you can actually hear it in real time. You know,
that's cool, man.
The producer's like, you know, oh, try again. You know, like it's
no kidding. So it's really like being in the studio. You're just not in the same room.
Yeah,
that's an amazing technology, man.
Yeah, I had never heard of it before this.
Yeah, what is it called again?
Yeah, it was a game changer, man. Like, honestly, I know that the pandemic is what is bringing this to the forefront of production, but I think that's the future, because this producer we're working with is in Germany, and my bass player is in Sweden, my keyboard player is in the Midwest, my singer is in Brazil, and we all recorded, you know, as if we were in the studio together, as opposed to just recording and sending stuff back and forth, you know.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, man. So that was sort of my priority for the pandemic. This project is called NorthTale. It is a power metal band, old school. I mean, mid 90s old school, not like 70s old school, you know.
Right. So full on vocals lineup and everything.
Oh yeah. It's already our second album that we're doing now.
Okay, very cool, man.
And you know, I've had this dream of like releasing an instrumental album, you know, and doing that thing since I was a kid. But every time I try, I end up just writing songs with vocals, and it ends up becoming something like that, you know.
Right.
And this band wasn't different. The difference was that came into my life sort of like at a point that I had already kind of done everything I wanted. You know, when you have those check boxes, you know, I want to do this in my life. I had every checkbox, you know, I'm like, okay, now I did everything I wanted, but you know, there's the one thing I haven't done. I haven't had my heavy metal band yet. That's my band that I write the music.
Right.
So that was what started.
So with that, because you've been with a bunch of projects where you were essentially like the hired gun, and like you didn't get to make all the decisions, but how is it different having your own band where you get to make all the final decisions and, you know, all that good stuff? What's the difference for you?
It's a completely different thing. And honestly, I almost feel like a beginner sometimes, like I almost feel like I'm starting over, because it's, put it this way, my entire career I've been told what to do. You know, it's like, it's always been, you show up at this place, you learn these songs, you're going to get this much money, this is your plane ticket, you know, just don't fuck it up. So as long as you don't fuck it up, you're employed, you know.
Right.
Now with this band, it's like every mistake that I made cost me $150, you know. It's like every day I procrastinate to like email someone, that's $300, you know. It's like everything. And then, we have to take care of merchandise, and what about that one tour? I wonder if that promoter got back to us. Like, dude, this is stuff I never thought about before. You know?
It's a lot, isn't it? It's like it's too much.
Yeah. Well, it reminds me why I haven't done it.
Yeah, right.
Because as a kid, I remember, you know, as a kid, you know, growing up in Brazil, the main issue that I used to have was to find 5 people who were responsible enough to want to be in a band. That's when I kind of got done with that. I'm like, you know what? Fuck that. I'm just going to join someone else's band, and I'll kind of help their dream, you know?
Yeah.
But now with my band is a completely different thing, and I get frustrated with the guys. A thing that happens a lot is I get frustrated with someone, and I know that I would be doing the same, you know, because normally the hired gun, so I'm like, all right, I haven't heard from this guy in 3 days. He hasn't recorded anything. Okay, he's just avoiding me at this point. And it reminds me of me doing that to other people, you know?
Yeah.
So it's kind of, but it's cool, man. I mean, it's been great. You know, the band started essentially in 2018, and we already went to Japan, already played a big festival in Sweden, Sabaton Open Air.
That's cool, man.
It's been cool, you know, it's been
So you haven't found there to be any real issues in the industry with you starting your own thing?
I'm sorry. What do you mean?
Well, like, you know, it's like when I went from my instrumental album to Outworld, it was like nothing I had done before Outworld mattered, because this is a new thing. You know, so it didn't work. So when I went from Outworld to Day of Reckoning, anything that I had accomplished in Outworld was not worth anything to this new thing, because the new thing is not Outworld.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like every time I do something different, I have to start over from ground zero and build up that whole thing, that whole following with that and whatnot. So I kind of see why a lot of bands that, you know, end up 20 years later with only one or two original members, why they don't change the name. You know what I mean? While it might not be any different, you know, might not be anything like the band sounded like in the beginning, but it's like to have to start all the way from ground zero again, it's tough to do, man.
Yeah.
Make or break it for sure.
Is. And it's very interesting that you'd say that, because and I'll be honest, I don't have a, you know, we have some guys in the band that were like in other bands, like our drummer played with Ingve for 15 years, Patrick.
Okay.
And obviously I have the bands I worked for. Our first singer was also in a band named Twilight Force that had done some touring in Europe. And we were kind of thinking that because we were together, people would give a shit. No, doesn't matter.
Really?
You know, like,
but are you releasing this on a label, or are you doing it yourself?
That's what I mean. Like on the business side, it helps a little bit because we do have, we are on Nuclear Blast, our first album.
Okay. So that's pretty awesome. You guys got signed on your first record.
Right. But there hasn't been, I haven't felt that who we are has brought any attention from the public to the band, you know.
I gotcha.
Like even on the first album, they kind of try to push the super group thing. I don't think it worked. I don't think it mattered. You know, like you said, what I've done before doesn't matter. We're a new band, you know. We're
right. It's like you got to build your fan base again. It's like, you know, do you find that with what you do, that you notice that most of the viewers or just all your online following and all that stuff, all the people that are supposed to be your fans, you find that they have super short attention span, you know, because it's like, I could have stuff plastered all over my page about what I'm doing now, and people will be like, "Oh, when's the next Outworld album coming out?" It's like, dude, I've been in Outworld in 10 years, 12 years or something, you know, crazy.
It's funny that my first band, Cellador, to this day, people ask me about that. I'm like, I haven't been in the band, you know, I'm not even in the second album, you know, it happens. It happens. I think that in my case, and I'm sure it's kind of the same with you, it's because we have like different groups of fans, you know. There's people that know you from this work, people that know you from this work, there's people that know you from this work, you know.
So that's the thing. How do you get all of your fans to know what you're doing now and you know, I mean, what about a fan of somebody, you know, I'm a fan of them, I don't care what they're doing, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm not going to not listen to Ingve or whoever because he's doing a guest solo on an album or he's playing it, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter what he's doing. I'm a fan and I want to know what he's doing, you know.
That's kind of what I've been trying to do. And it's interesting because like I work in different, very different extremes of styles. Like I play with the Trans-Siberian Orchestra, but I also play with I Am Morbid, with the people from Morbid Angel, the death metal band, you know? Yeah. So a lot of like, and then in the middle there's Udo and Do, like the traditional heavy metal. So a lot of these fan bases kind of hate each other too. So,
that's weird, man. I don't get that thing. You know what I mean?
But it exists, and it's
I know.
It's really, you know, it's really really stupid. So like there's a lot of there's I Am Morbid fans that listen to my band NorthTale and like it, even though I hear these people talk shit about all the other bands that we copy, you know. So that's kind of cool, you know. Like, I'll see a guy post something. Oh, here's, you know, Bill Hudson from I Am Morbid's band or whatever, but the guy hates Stradivarius or Halloween. Like, good. This is kind of cool, you know. Yeah. So
I never could understand that thing, you know. For me, growing up, even from time I was growing up to current, it's like it always seems like somebody's always got a problem with the singer. You know, oh man, you know, I like the music, but I don't like the singer. It's like, oh, okay, cool. Or, you know, for me, I can listen to anything and extract from it what I do like. You know what I mean? Yeah. Say the singer isn't my favorite singer, I'm not going to not listen to the band if I like the music. You know what I mean? I don't understand how people can't tune out what they don't like to absorb what they do like from it. But
and also there's, I see a lot of that, and this is mostly in metal, and I hate to say this because like I don't see that in pop music, I don't see that in hip hop, I only see that in metal. It's like people only like a certain type of aesthetic, you know. So
Right.
so like you said, I don't like the singer. So the guy that likes the really heavy growly singer, he'll never listen to a singer that sounds like Bruce Dickinson, you know.
Right.
But and the other way around happens too.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, for sure.
Iron Maiden fans that don't like, you know, extreme music because it's growly. It's like it's two different extremes. It's like guitar without distortion and with distortion. You know, like you're not listening to anything that doesn't have distortion. It's so weird.
Right.
You know?
That is a weird concept. You know, it's like I have people ask me, "Oh, do you play acoustic too?" It's like, well, it's a guitar, right? It's got 6 strings or more. Sure. You know, it doesn't matter if it's you can plug it in or not. Yeah, I play it. You know, can you play slow blues? No, man, I can only play fast. You know.
Well, we've talked about that many a times where people like they put that projection on you because you're a metal guy that you can't like other styles either. Like that's not even close to metal. You know, we talked to Carl Sanders about him liking Earth, Wind and Fire, you know, like why does it have to just be metal?
Right.
Dude, and in that case, when it comes to that stuff and that sort of subject, it's even weirder for me because I don't know that I can say that I listen to metal in my day-to-day life. You know what I mean? I listen to metal sort of as research. I want to see what the bands right now sound like. I want to see what I like, what I don't like, or whatever. And sometimes I'll listen to metal for pleasure, but it's the metal I grew up with. It's Maiden, Halloween, it's Metallica, Stratovarius. Like, if I am to listen to new music, it's not metal. It's, you know, like the newer music that I like is stuff like 21 Pilots, it's stuff like, well, it's not even new anymore, but like the EDM of the early like 2010s, like Swedish House Mafia, I mean, the radio has, in my opinion, better, more innovative music than metal. The metal is nowadays, you know, like I feel like there's a lot of people. My dog really wants to be here, so let's. This is Paco.
Hey, Taco. Paco. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, man, I have Paco and Rico, but I feel that a lot of like. I don't know, man. The innovation, the forward thinking is in pop, is in hip hop, and then the really good stuff that was done, that was really creative, was like back in the 90s in metal. Metal, you know what I mean? So I really have a hard time. Focusing only on metal when the best music that's coming out is actually playing on the radio. And I'm not saying, you know, when I'm supposed to see anything like that, but there is really good pop music. You know, Lady Gaga is fantastic. You know, everything she's ever done with that producer Red One is fantastic. There's the producer Zad. You know, that guy is a musical genius. You know, he just uses computers and not guitars and drums or whatever. You know, so these days I'm a lot more interested in that music, and that's also one of the reasons why my newest project sounds so dated, so to speak. You know, like mid '90s or late 2000s, because that's the metal that I like, and I kind of wanted to play something that I don't care whether or not will sell. You know, it's just.
Yeah, I mean that's very liberating, because then you're truly making music for yourself. And that's how I always approach it. It's like, if I'm first and foremost not happy with what I'm doing, I don't really care what anybody else thinks.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean, and if anybody else does like it, then that's a bonus. You know, because it's kind of like it's my art. You know.
Yeah,
you know,
it
is.
It is. You know,
it's personal.
It's very hard. I don't know. It's in my career, I do stuff that I don't necessarily like. You know, I've played in bands that I don't like. I've played songs I don't like, and I've written songs for artists that I don't necessarily think are great. But I would have a very hard time writing a song that I don't like. You know, even if it is for an artist I don't like, in a style I don't like, I have to like the song. I have to enjoy what I'm doing. Otherwise, it just sounds fake.
Yeah,
it sounds fake to the listener.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to, you know, if you're going to write something, you have to be true to yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, even if you're not into that particular genre, it has to be something that you think this is awesome. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me ask you this: do you have, like, after you record something, like say you're done recording your album, do you have a hard time listening to it when it's done?
Well,
do you instantly like it when it's done, or do you go, man, or do you cringe when you listen to your own work?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So there's as I said earlier today, it's funny that I'm talking to you guys because that's a good example of that.
Yeah.
As I said earlier, I've always wanted to do an instrumental song, or album. And then in 2012, I did an instrumental song. I just put it out. I actually wrote that for a ESP video just for the endorsement. Cool. I kind of liked it and I put it out. I despise that today. I can't listen. I start listening to the intro and it's like nails on a chalkboard. How sloppy my picking is. How the choice of notes. It's like it's like, oh my god, it's still up on YouTube or whatever. But I hate it. Yeah. So that's one example. Now stuff that I've done for other artists that I like. I wrote a record called Westfield Massacre with Tommy Vex, the singer from Bad Wolves.
I know who Tommy is.
And we did that record, and I'm really proud of that. I listened to that, that's a modern metal record that I did. It's very like metalcore. And I really
what was the name of the band?
Westfield Massacre.
Okay, cool.
It wasn't really a band. It was just me and Tommy. He put a band together after. Yeah. We kind of started as a band, sort of. It was me, him, and Tim Yeung, the drummer that played with me with David Vincent and I Am Morbid. Oh, you know David, and you know Tim. Yeah. So it was me, Tim, and Tommy at first. Yeah. And then we did this record, and we did maybe like 2 or 3 shows, and then me and Tim weren't into being in the band because it wasn't really the genre that we like to play. Right. But it was a really, really well done record. It sold pretty good too. I still make royalties from it.
That's awesome.
And it was, so that record never sounded bad to me. I never went back to it and didn't like it. However, my band NorthTale's first album, when I put out, I was like, I'm gonna revolutionize everything. People are gonna pay attention to power metal now. And now I listen to it in comparison to the new one, and it's terrible. It's going through my ears, man. It's like the solos. Oh, that band was out of tune. How come I never heard that? Or the mix. The guitar is way too loud here. I start hearing these things that I did back 2 years ago.
So you find that you get more self-critical as time passes.
Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah. I'm kind of almost the opposite. It's at first when I finish a project, I'm like, I critique it to death and just can't. It's like by the time I'm done with it, it's like, dude, I can't even listen to it, And then maybe, like I listened to the Outworld album a couple months ago for the first time in probably 10, 12 years. And I was like, wow, that shit's pretty good.
That was good, man. That was a great album.
But I didn't like it for the first 6 months after it was done. I couldn't listen to it. It was like, oh my God, I cringed at every solo and every note. It wasn't right. And,
okay,
you just want it to be so perfect.
That makes me feel better because, man, it's what you're saying. It's like this note. And then I'm wondering, I wonder if people hear this,
Well, I'll tell you, they probably don't hear it.
Probably not. I mean, we're all so self-critical of our playing, but I mean, that's what makes you good. You know what I mean? Sure. If you're not self-critical and judging and worrying about how it sounds and, caring, then,
that's
what separates. But there is that analysis paralysis too, where you that's kind of where I'm stuck with my album is I keep overthinking everything to death and I don't just put it out.
Right.
It's always cool to look back, but if you don't have anything to look back on, what's the point? And that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah. You definitely, you can, that's like mixing, man. You can mix forever.
This is why this album, I decided to go with a big producer, because on the first album, there was a lot of things that I just didn't know if it was good or not. Like, is this good? Then I'll try again, be like, I think it's good. I wanted an opinion of someone that said to say it's done, so I don't keep, like spinning my wheels. And that's been awesome. Like I have any stupid idea, any stupid idea I have, I send it to him, and the next day he's like, nah, that doesn't work.
Yeah, that's not working. Gotcha, man. Let me ask you this about when you're cutting your solos, like in the studio, do you have somebody there that you trust that will tell you when they think it's a good take or not? Because a lot of times when I'm in the studio, a lot of times the guy that's producing it or whatever is a guitar player, and I'm usually better than the guy. So anything I do is great, but that doesn't get the best out of me. So I need somebody that always there that's super self-critical on my playing to go, no, dude, you need to do that again.
I have felt like that several times. Several times when a producer was like, no, that's good, but I don't think it is.
Right.
That's happened. So on this album, again, I used the producer because what I did is, well, first of all, I did this thing where I wrote the parts and I had to be able to perform it. No edits like on my end. Maybe the producer wants to edit or whatever, but it has to be a whole take for me. Start to finish, no, chopping. Right. So, all right. So that was the first thing. So I did that, and every solo on the new album, I did 4 to 5 takes of the same thing, and I sent it to the producer. And I'm like, is this good? And then if you like the solo, I was like, all right, now you can chop it up however you want, Right. So again, because I didn't have anyone with me doing that, being like, no, this is good, this is not, I just kept sending him a bunch of shit, and let him choose. And on the first album, man, I didn't have it either, but Ralph Santalla was supposed to have been kind of my guitar sort of like, to do that, to come here and do that. And he passed away like the week he was supposed to come up here. That was really bad. And then when he did, I didn't want anyone else to do it,
Yeah.
But
well, he was always good at giving you shit.
Dude, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, wow, he's never gonna say something that isn't good is good. Right. He'll just be a dick and say something that is good sucks. Yeah. I was expecting that, but for this album, I couldn't do it because of the pandemic. But I'm really hoping that next album I can have someone, and be like, nah, that sucks, man.
Yeah.
It's a good gauge.
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
My singer in Dave Reckoning, Brad's really good at that. He is a guitar player, but he is also a singer and songwriter and a producer. He runs his own studio, and he's real good at,
Yeah, man.
I trust his opinion,
Dude, he's
great. A lot
great.
of times, Brad's awesome. A lot of times I'll, I usually improvise all my stuff nowadays, and we'll just do a bunch of takes. If it's not just like on, you know what I mean? If I don't get it in 3 or 4 takes, then it's not going to happen. So we'll just, at that point, I settle in with knowing that I'm not going to get something immediately that I like. So then I'll just do several takes, and he'll go, okay, cool, I got enough. I'll go home and chop it. When it was finally done, we had to start rehearsing it. It had been about 6 months. And since I improvised it, I forgot half of the shit. So I had to borrow my friend's Tascam Porta Studio little trainer thing, and I had to go in and slow my own solos down to figure out what the hell I did on some of this stuff. It's like,
if you want to support the channel, we've got a new merch store opened up. At least by the time this video comes out, it'll be opened up and stuff. We've got really great things. We've got some posters we're going to upload for you guys, 12 by 18, 26 by 36, or 24 by 36 posters, like big poster sizes of season 1. They're limited. What's that?
I was just saying, Guitar Autopsy.
And they're limited runs, so make sure you get them before they go away, because we won't have them back up again. And then that's just a way to help support the channel. If you also want to help support it, head over to Rusty's Patreon page. There's a bunch of stuff. You actually get all these episodes for a week in advance, so you can watch all of these before they get up on YouTube. There's going to be lessons being uploaded from Rusty, some backstage stuff that he does, just from his everyday life. And we're trying to make this a full-time thing for both of us. That'd be really appreciative. So also, if you join in on the Patreon, the new segment we're going to have is you get to ask any of the guests a week in advance. We'll post it, and you can ask questions to them if you're in a certain tier level. So look for that tier level, and you can ask your own question, and we'll have it answered during the show. So really cool opportunities where you get to ask some of these guys anything you want, as long as it's respectful, obviously. And we'll go from there. And just, man, whatever you guys can do, we always appreciate everything. So
and we'll, of course, if we pick your question or whatever to be asked, we'll make sure that he knows who
they'll flash your name up on the screen, and they'll know exactly who's asking the question. It'll be great.
My next project for sure is to do an instrumental album. I mean, I've been saying this my entire life. I announced it many times that I was doing it, but I actually talked to Dennis this time about having him help me. And I think he did a fantastic job on the Gus G album that he did, So I told him, will you help me write? Can we come up with some cool stuff? And he said he's into it. So once my album is done, I'll start talking to him about that.
Now, who's this you're talking about? Who is this you're talking about?
The producer, Dennis. Okay, he's producing my album right now.
Okay, so and he helps you with some of the stuff.
I'm hoping that he will.
Okay, so he's a guitar player too, or just a songwriter?
He's a bass player. He's a bass player. I guess he plays guitar, but I mean, as an artist, he was the bass player for Pink Cream 69.
Okay.
I don't know if you're familiar with Gus G's solo work. He was a producer on those.
Okay.
And there's a new one coming out now that he did too. Yeah. So, but he's like, on my band, he took my songs from here to here, So I'm like, dude, we have to do this on my instrumental.
Yeah, that's cool.
Shit,
So you said something earlier when you were talking about, every time you would start to write an instrumental album, you'd end up turning them into songs.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that, because when I write an instrumental song, I approach it as if somebody's going to sing on it. You know what I mean?
I do too. I do too. But and then at the end of the day, whatever melody I ended up making on guitar, I'm like, oh, that would sound better with a singer. That's
right. I got you. Yeah, that's cool, man.
It's very. No, but I think there's a instrumental music. Instrumental music will always be niche. Like, I don't think that you can really not make it for other guitar players. Even if you try a lot, it's like at the end of the day, it's either going to be like background for something or other guitar players. But it's been something that I want to do since I was a kid. Yeah. And I try. There's like a feedback loop that happens when I try to write instrumental music. I always start with something that I think is good, a riff or whatever. All right. Then I put that down. Then, all right, first verse. I play the melody. That's pretty cool. But if a singer sang it, it would be even better. All right, let's try the next part. Oh, that's pretty cool. But if a singer sang it, it would be better. That's,
Right, it's a vicious cycle.
It's a cycle, but honestly, and this is something that I noticed recently. I think it might have been honestly my playing at some point, because a singer sounds better. That probably means that my fingers aren't doing the work, aren't making the melody sound as good as a singer would. Right. I have noticed that as the years. I think we're all the same in the sense that like we reach a level of technique. I don't know, early 20s, probably younger than Zach is right now, and that's kind of like around what the playing is, like you get better from that and all, but your play is kind of there. I guess I feel that it was kind of there in my early 20s, and I never like my technique and the way I approach things didn't really change until recently again in the quarantine, when I started practicing guitar more and more and more, and I started actually noticing an improvement for the first time in like 20 years, and noticing that the way I was playing the same things started to sound better. Right. Like the same things that I already played before. Yeah. So I feel that maybe it has something to do with that. It's weird, man. It's weird. It really feels like the more you improve as a musician, the more you critique things, the more you hear things.
Sure. Absolutely.
I have that same thing though too, because I think I feel like I hit my really good peak when I was 20, just about, kind of like you said, where I was like, everybody knew like, oh, Zach can play guitar. It wasn't just like, yeah, he kind of plays. It's like, wait, this guy's pretty good. And I think a lot of people hit it there, but then they start a band or they go on tour, and then practicing becomes like the secondary part of their life. It becomes about maybe the touring and, whatever it is that they're doing, writing and stuff. But you're right, because I started working, or I started teaching, I started doing all these things, and I feel like I haven't gotten better for like the last 4 or 5 years. I've just been maintaining. And it wasn't until Rusty and I started talking that I've actually started looking at my playing again differently. Like he'll play something and I'm like, why can't I play that, or something. So you need to constantly have better musicians around you to help push you, I think.
That is a very
guitar player. It's hard because you have to put your ego aside too,
It's not hard to put your ego aside when you're next to Rusty, because you suck. Like, it's just
whatever. It is. No, man, I love sitting down and playing. I think that you can learn something from anyone, and I don't really have. The only time I would have a problem with my ego is if whoever I'm hanging out with is just not cool. You know what I mean? If they got an attitude or they think they're badass, because I'd rather not be around somebody like that.
I feel that happens a lot. You know, I feel that happens a lot. Yeah, man. Like,
yeah, but I mean, you know, I've sat down with so many guitar players and just had a great time and just talked and shared musical ideas, you know, because from all the stuff I did with Guitar Asylum TV and, you know, now with this show and just all the people that I've met through the years, anytime somebody comes through town that I'm friends with or whatever, we'll go down and hang out and play guitar all day. And then they'll go and, you know, do the show and get back and we'll go play more or whatever and hang out. And it's never about ego. It's just about, you know, hanging out and playing and sharing ideas.
I feel also that's like the better the guitar player you're talking to, the more they are. Like you guys talk to Per, right?
Yeah.
Like if you never bring up guitar, you wouldn't know he plays.
Yeah.
Like if you're just hanging out with him in Sweden or whatever. Yeah. If you never even say anything about it, you wouldn't know just because of his personality.
Yeah.
You know? It's it's so natural to him. Like he doesn't need to. And I feel that's the guy that's devoid of ego. You know, like I can't ever imagine Per thinking, no, this is better than that guy. You know, like that.
Yeah. No, he's super cool and super humble.
Yeah, but I think that the better you are, the more the music is natural to you, the more you're like that. You know,
I think so too, because I think a lot of people, it's about self-confidence, I think, or maybe lack thereof. Like when you first start, you know you're not great because you're just starting, so you kind of hide a little bit. But then you start getting in this weird zone. It's like this little middle ground zone where you're good enough that you're better than maybe 80% of the population of people who try guitar, but you're not at that upper level. So you have this like attitude of like, I don't know if it's like self-confidence of like, you just have a lack of it. And so you're trying to overcompensate to reach that higher level. But then you get to that level where like you said, you're 100% confident in your playing and you're just there. You know, it's just like, I do guitar all day. Like I'm more excited about this over here sometimes, you know, about this project or whatever. And then you kind of lose that ego because you're at that level.
It's funny because I've been wanting to like come up with some sort of YouTube video or something that explains the level of guitar playing like that. Because like that ego that you're talking about, like maybe you're better than most guys, that's when you're playing like the 6 couplets with 3 notes per string, you know, and you're playing that really fast. So everybody's like, oh, that guy is so good. Maybe you're playing around like that, and at the end you're playing an arpeggio and you repeat that like 3 times, you know. And, you know, like there's so many players that get stuck in that particular, you know, they'll do the run the minor scale, you know, like, and then it's hard. At least it was for me. When I was at that level, it was very hard for me to admit that anybody was better than me at that point. You know, like when I was like 19, 20, and I was doing a lot of that stuff, I was playing, I specifically remember a time, like I was probably 19. Now I was younger. I was like 18, 17, when I basically like I got the tab book for images and words, and I learned every song, and I put it in my head somehow that only I could do that in the entire planet. Like nobody else could do that. And I was like 17, 18. You also got to understand, there was no YouTube, there was no social media. When I say I put that in my head, I actually believe that. I'm not exaggerating. Actually, I was like, well, I'm 17 or 18 or whatever. I can play all these Petrucci solos. I'm the shit, you know, like, and then now you see like this 9-year-old kids going through the whole album on YouTube, you know. But back in my day, when I was at that level, man, my ego was telling me like crazy things. It took like, I don't know, being in Circle to, like I worked in Circle to Circle, is this band featuring Zach Stevens from Sabotage and Trans-Siberian Orchestra. They had a guitar player that I'm not sure why he doesn't do more with his career. His name is Andy Lee. That guy is one of the best guitar players I've ever seen in front of me. Like, dude, I've seen the best, but that guy still scares me. Like, I see his playing, I'm like, how do you even think about all that? Like, because he's like a chicken picker country guy, but he's also a shredder.
Right.
You know? So yeah, but he's never done shit. He's only been in that band, you know. So but when I started playing with that guy, I felt like a student. I felt like when I was 14 and Kiko Loureiro was my first teacher, and I was like, you know, looking like that's how it felt. But we were on tour, you know, so it was a really weird thing, because there I am thinking that they hired me because I'm so badass, and I'm like so far behind this guy, but I'm supposed to be his guitar, you know, partner or whatever.
Right.
That was eye-opening for me. That's when I realized, that's when I'm like, dude, I suck. I have to go back. I have to go back and start over, you know, because I play like a 16-year-old kid. I play like I did when I was doing Dream Theater covers, you know.
Right.
And that was like 5 years after, 6 years after. It's crazy, man.
Yeah.
It can be pretty crazy.
Yeah. You know, when I was younger, I was lucky to have, you know, because I don't know. I'm not sure how old you are, dude. I'm going to be.
I'm 38 now.
Yeah, dude. I'm going to be 53 in April. So
I want to look like you when I'm 53. Good.
Yeah.
Nice,
Thanks, man. Yeah. So when I grew up, I mean, there was definitely no YouTube, no internet, nothing like that. So and I grew up in a small town, and but it was at the right time. You know what I mean? I started playing in '83, and it's around '84 and '85, and I started getting good, and you know. Somewhat, it was the heyday. It was the beginning of the shred era. You know, it was when Shrapnel Records was just starting. Yngwie just came out, and you know,
killed to be there, man. Holy shit!
Yeah, it was cool, man. It was very cool. So everybody was good back then. You know what I mean? And I would go to the guitar shops and hang out, and there was always older dudes there that were real good. So I'd be able to hang out and watch them and pick up ideas, and they also turned me on to music I would have never have ever heard of, because I would have just been listening to regular metal stuff, you know. So at an early age, I was turned on to, you know, like chicken pickers, like Scotty Anderson and country guys, and then jazz fusion stuff like Mike Stern and Holdsworth and Dimiola and Gambale and stuff like that. So, and plus, you know, all the magazines, they were promoting all that stuff too. And that was the only place to get any information, was in magazines back then, you know, because there's no internet. So you can't just pop on YouTube or whatever and search for a guitar player, you know. So you had to actually buy a magazine or buy an album, a whole record, not one song. You know what I mean? Yeah. And, you know, you couldn't go just download one. I just like that one song. You know, you buy the whole album and get to know an artist. So I think there's a whole, you know, thing missing with that nowadays. You know what I mean?
I think it's funny because we've actually got like 3 kind of generations, you know, generations like roughly about 10 years or so, right? Or like the next time that you would move up. And like, if you got Rusty and you had that old school, like you just got to buy a magazine or you got to wait for that one article to come out. But then Bill kind of had still that same thing, but a leveled up version of that, I assume, right?
I was right at the cusp, man. Like when I started playing guitar, there was no internet. But 2 years after, I was already downloading tabs and printing them, you know.
Right. Yeah, see, and I grew up in all of that. You know, I've only had YouTube and tabs.
I didn't even heard of people printing tabs, huh?
Yeah,
I don't do that.
So my, I started my instrumental career right when the internet took off. Yeah, that's how I got known. You know what I mean?
That's how I heard from you, Chops from Hell.
Yeah, that was it. You know, Chops from Hell. I started putting out instructional stuff, and in that period, I was writing my album. And you know, that's back when you used to trade links. That's how you did social media. You swapped links with everybody you could. You know what I mean? It's back. You know, I would literally try to swap links with everybody. I would call up, you know, not call up, but email everybody that had a webzine or whatever you called them back then. You know what I mean? To try to get my stuff reviewed or do a lesson or something for their website. And you know, it's old fashioned way, just knocking on everybody's door, you know, because when I was really young in my early 20s, I thought that you just had to be badass and it would just happen. Yeah. It doesn't matter where I'm at. I just got to be good and it's going to take off and it's going to happen, you know. Well, it doesn't really happen that way. It takes more than just being good. You know, looking back now, it's like, man, if I would have done this, or this, my entire career could be different. But I just didn't know. You know what I mean? What you don't know about the music industry. It's like, well, maybe I should have taken a second look at that contract we were offered, or maybe I should have just negotiated, you know, because I had with my old band.
There's something that you haven't done in your career yet that you'd like to?
Is there something say again?
Yeah, like I was talking about check boxes. Like in my career, I was like, well, I did everything I wanted. Now I want to have my band. What would you? Is there anything you haven't done yet in your career that you want to do?
Yeah, I think I'd like to tour more. But I don't want to tour more in a van pulling a U-Haul trailer.
Oh yeah, I don't do that either.
Yeah, right. So I don't want to do that. I've done some of that, but I'd like to tour at a whole other level. You know what I mean? And
but as a part of a band or as a solo artist?
I don't know. Either way.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I wouldn't mind. I'd like to do it as a solo artist too. As a solo artist, I can kind of do everything from my catalog. Whether it's instrumental stuff, whether it's Outworld, whether it's Day of Reckoning. I play a little bit of everything. Right? There's some new stuff in there, so I kind of call the shots. But when you're more in a band, it's like I can't really play Outworld stuff in Day of Reckoning or vice versa. You know what I mean? And,
I don't know if it's that you couldn't play it. I just don't think a lot of other people couldn't play it, and you'd have to try to find musicians that could keep up with you.
Yeah, that's
that
true.
That would be horrible.
So that's tough, and that's something else that I really want to do. I want to do an album with world-class musicians. You know what I mean? Just the best of the best, whether I have to hire them or we do something as a project. But and record in a top-notch studio. You know what I mean? Those are some things I missed. I mean, the best studio that I probably ever recorded in was in Painted Black Studio, and I think it's in Orlando. I went down there and recorded some guest work for a band called Falling in Reverse, and they flew me down, and I was in there with Elvis. I don't know if you know who Elvis is. Not Elvis Presley, the producer, did all the Alter Bridge and a bunch of other big selling stuff.
Yeah, he's here in Orlando.
Yeah. Okay. You know who he is? Yeah. Super cool guy. That was a really cool experience because it was a totally just full on studio. But and even adding to that, I think one of the coolest things would be to be able to go into a big pro studio like that, and start writing my album in the studio. I hear about bands that, hey, we just go in the studio. We're going in the studio to start writing an album. Basically live there and write the album in the studio until it's done. I've always had to do, okay, I got my day. I got to go teach now. So I got to go pay the bills. Right. Mm-hmm. So I don't have the luxury of being in the studio 24 hours a day until the album's done. I want to do that someday where I walk in and I don't leave that studio till it's done.
Killer.
You know what I mean? Don't have any financial worries or nothing. Just go in. All right, let's write the album, guys. And you're with the producer or whatever, and you just do it. That'd be sick.
That's a great project. What about you, Zach? What do you want to do that you haven't done yet? Now that you're like millionaire guitar teacher, he's like the Tim Ferriss of guitar teachers, man.
Yep.
The things that I'd like to do, honestly, like it's going to sound kind of weird, but like I'm kind of doing what I want to do right now. It might change in 5 years, 10 years, but all I wanted to do was be financially well off to play guitar all day. That was step one, which I have. Step two was I wanted to get in contact with other musicians and build relationships. And that's what we're doing right now. I'm literally doing exactly what I want to do, and getting to meet like Rusty, that's been a huge game changer for me in as far as, I guess, not just the connections with other people, but getting to like pick the mind of somebody that you've respected for so long. You know what I mean? Like, that's just great. I mean, it'd be like, even for me, but that'd be like if Rusty got to meet Yngwie and talk to him anytime he wanted to, it'd be like, oh my God. I mean, even if whether you're learning specifically from them, I think you just take whatever you can, So literally right now I'm doing what I'm doing. If it was something that I wish I could do, I wish that, honestly, I'd like to not teach and just have the business running, and making my money from that, which is on its way. Yeah, but I would like to be doing something like this full time where I get to talk to people and travel and meet them maybe. And, I can, in May, I'm going down to hang out with Rusty for a weekend, and that's going to be fun. We're going to take a bunch of photos. Like, I want to just do what I want to do. I don't want people telling me what to do.
They're doing it. That's a good place to be. See, man, this is what's cool, man. It's when you have a clear idea of what you want, or you're living it like you are right now. Like I said, that was me, but that was me like a couple of years ago, and I was like, fuck, this is it. I'm living the dream, and that's when the idea of the band came, because I'm like, okay, now I did it, it takes way more than just being good at guitar to be at that point.
Sure. Yeah.
It means nothing almost at some point.
For sure. And I think
it's knowing like that side of the business is so overlooked. It's like, oh, you're a great guitarist. Great. Well, so is that guy right there.
Yeah, they're everywhere. Yeah, all you got to do is turn on YouTube. So another thing is that, like, we're talking about doing, I've always had the luxury of teaching, and I love to teach, and I would continue to teach no matter what happened with my career, because I just dig it. But because I've been able to teach, that's kept me to the point where I only can, but I get to pick what I do musically. So I don't have to go take a gig because I got to pay this bill or that bill. So because of the teaching, it's allowed me that freedom to do just what I want musically, because, I mean, I was talking to a buddy of mine a while back, and he's like, "Oh man, dude," he goes, I got to go out on the road with this band for a month to pay these bills. And he was bummed about it. It's like, that's an aha moment going, yeah, see, teaching is really a cool thing for me, because I don't have to take those gigs and stuff like that. I would never want to feel like that. You know what I mean? Because then, because you're out on the road, dude, you're on the bus with these guys 12, 16 hours a day, and you go play for a couple hours and you're back on the bus or whatever. And if you're not enjoying it, that's pretty miserable. And I think that can lead, that's why you hear about so many musicians that have drug or alcohol problems or relationship problems, because you're out on the road and you're alone.
Yeah.
You're alone and you hate what you do.
Yeah.
It's very interesting you'd say that, man. That has happened to me, what you're describing. And it was such a high paying gig that I would rather not say, but it was such a high paying gig that, like, I not almost, like I couldn't stop doing it, because it was literally paying for my mortgage.
Right.
And at first, when I got that gig, I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. I can't believe I'm going to be in this band. It was, but within 1 week working with that band, I hated it. I couldn't stand the people in the band. I couldn't stand the crew. Yeah. It was, they were from a different country, so there was a difficulty in communication. I was the only person in the touring party that didn't speak their language.
Oh man.
And so, like, they would make these decisions on the road about where to go to eat or what to do or what time sound check is or whatever in their language, and just go and do it. And when I didn't know what was happening, I would get yelled at.
Yeah.
It was a lot of things, but it was a really high paying gig, and I stayed an entire year and a half, man, with that exact feeling that you're saying. Be like, oh fuck, I have to go do this tour.
Yeah, you go to do this tour and stuff like that.
And I remember feeling ridiculous because it was these gigantic festivals in Europe, and I'm like, oh man, I'm about to go play this festival that I dreamt of my whole life, but it's with this fucking band. I don't want to go, Like, so that is, I thought about that when that was happening. I was like, man, if I had made more of a name as a teacher, if I had taken the teaching thing seriously, it would have something that maybe this wouldn't be happening right now.
Yeah, but still, looking back, you gained a lot of experience from doing that, and that adds a lot of maturity and seasoning to your playing to be able to be professional. That's being a pro. Yeah, you know what I mean? You were in a gig that you didn't like, but you did it. And and you know what, dude? I'm very proud of myself for that, because I never became a problem for them. You know what I mean? Because that sucks too. Like when you see the guy that isn't having fun and then he's doing a shitty job. I was always. I showed up at the time I had to be. I played my songs, and then I disappeared. Right. And you made sure that everything was perfect, and you did, you know what I mean? Yeah, come in and nail it and just go do your thing.
I'm giving your money's worth. I'm just not hanging out with you after,
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, that has a lot to do with just your mental health in general, when it not just touring, but if you had a regular job and you hate the job, but it's paying your bills. And it's like, man, I wish I could just go and do something else. Like maybe people are in your position, or I should say, maybe they're working a job and in their head, they're like, I hate my job, but if I could go on tour, I'd be happy.
Because I always thought, because I was like, I'm making first of all, I couldn't make this much money without being this, because I don't have a college degree outside of music, I couldn't get a job that paid me this much. So, and I'm fucking playing guitar in Europe. So why am I complaining?
Right.
There is that side of it, but the feeling of fuck, I wish, that was that really, again,
you feel stuck.
Yeah. Again, I'm not complaining. I it was an amazing experience, an amazing gig, but that feeling was there. That feeling was definitely there of like, I have to go,
Yeah.
Well, it's just like having like a girlfriend where you're like, man, I've never had a girlfriend before and I've always wanted one. But then like you're just like, this chemistry is totally not there. And then you stay with her for like a year and a half and you're like, what am I doing to myself?
What you said, the chemistry is not there, dude. With this particular gig I'm talking about, I remember like I got the gig and I was flown out to their country as it happened. And I got there for their first rehearsal. My guitar wouldn't tune.
Oh man.
3 guitars. I wouldn't get it in tune. That's when I knew it wouldn't work, because I'm like, what's happening, and this band is like there. So at one point I'm like, okay, well, I didn't get the gig, but still, no, you're awesome. We want you here. But I was like, oh man, I already know it's not going to go,
Yeah.
Like, you tune the guitar, you play the chord. Yeah, it's there. Let's start. And you start. And then, okay, where's your guitar tech? The guitar tech comes. Oh man, it's gonna take a little bit. Like just everything going wrong.
Yeah.
Like just bad vibes instantly.
So would you say that was that an audition that you were at?
It was named an audition, but obviously it wasn't because I didn't really get to play. Right.
But you got the gig.
I got the gig and I was in the band for 2 years.
Yeah, it's crazy. But
on this first rehearsal, we didn't even play one entire song together.
That's crazy, man. Yeah, that's crazy. So do you have like a worst gig story?
Worst single show or worst?
Yeah, just worst gig, whatever show, whatever.
Yes. Not that one.
Yeah.
I do. So how do I not mention these people's names?
Yeah. Well, you could just talk about what happened, and you don't have to mention.
Yeah, I'm gonna try. Yeah. So I got this gig with a singer, right? It was right off the bat, I knew it wasn't gonna be a long-term thing. I knew it wasn't gonna be a great gig. It wasn't a big band. They are a support level band, but they support a lot of big tours, And so I got this gig and we're talking, and I went, again, a band from another country. I go to their country to rehearse, and we got along really well. That was the opposite of this other gig. I like the artists. I like the management. I like everyone. It was great. And then we go on the road. And well, first of all, you know how you're talking about not touring a van and shit? I'm at that.
Yeah.
So on this gig, I had already been not doing vans for 10 years, but somehow I was convinced and paid a little extra to take a van gig in the UK. It wasn't really a van; it was like those single decker things, it's a hybrid between a van, a Sprinter, and a bus,
Yeah.
Anyway, I went on this tour. And I get there and there's no crew. And I'm like, okay, I guess I have to carry my own stuff, And then they start asking me to carry their stuff. That's when I started laughing. I'm like, okay, you guys are funny. Like, all right, well, my pay just went up double then. If you need help carrying equipment, then I need double pay.
Right.
Oh, no, we're out here. No, we're not out here. You're out here.
Yeah.
You're out here. And you hired me to do this job.
Yeah.
And you're not giving me a crew. So what's going to happen is I'm going to carry my own guitar, which I shouldn't. But I'm going to carry my own guitar. I'm going to carry my camper. And I'm going to the bus, to the van after.
Yeah.
All right. So this entire tour was like that kind of vibe. Mm-hmm. So the artist gets another big tour, this time because of me, just because I'm in the band. Another big tour as support. We go out to Europe on this tour, and me and the artist have this big argument on the first day of the tour. And I just tell her, you know what? Just send me back home. Literally, we are in Paris at the airport. I'm like, just send me back home. Seriously, I don't this is not going to work. Just send me back. Oh, I need you, blah, blah, blah. Okay. In that case, I'm going to do the tour, but we're not going to talk. So it's not speaking to the artist.
Wow.
I would see her on stage, and that's it. But then the artist started doing stuff, like employer stuff. You work for me, so you have to do this. You work for me, so you have. So I started getting pissed off, and eventually I was ready to leave the tour, and I started doing things to spite them too. And eventually I ended up coming home from Poland in the middle of the tour. They dropped me off at the airport at like 4:30 in the morning without a ticket, and wow. I came back home. But I was ready to go home. I couldn't. It was just, that was the single worst gig. It was everyday little bullshit things like where's my stuff, or like I had a stage riser. One day my stage riser wasn't there anymore. I get on stage, where the fuck is my riser? No, the artist cut your riser. You don't get it anymore. And yeah, it was. Oh, my guitar tech was working with the headliner on that tour. So I told my artist, can you throw him an extra $100 work for me? He's my guy. He is there. You have no expense. Nope, there's no budget for that. Okay, well, I guess I'm carrying my guitar in my camper again.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I guess you're carrying your own gear. I mean, this is a big tour. This is like a major heavy metal tour. That has to be the single worst situation I've ever had in my career. And but it taught me a lot, man. Ever since that situation, I didn't take anything that I didn't think was worth it.
And that's what's important.
When I was offered that gig, I was already hired for the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. I had not done my first show yet, but I was already hired. I should have told myself, I'm not gonna take this fucking gig. But I did, and it was really bad. But I mean, it is what it is, man. It happens. It wasn't the worst. It wasn't the worst thing. I still came home with money. I still got to tour the world. It's like,
yeah, that's crazy, man.
What about an actual? So that was like a gig, as in like a hired gun thing. What about like the worst one-time show you've ever done? Like one that really sticks out to you,
like a performance.
With this artist as well.
Okay.
On her headlining tour in the UK, we went to this place I'll never forget. This place was called the Rocking Chair in Sheffield, England. And when we got there, I'm like, oh, fucking Sheffield, Def Leppard is from here. It was my first time in that city. So, well, first of all, we were in a shitty part, so I didn't get to see anything. We get to this, I don't even want to call it a bar. It's like fuck, man. Imagine in the UK, like those 120-year-old taverns, like it was like it was
like a pub.
Yeah.
But not like an American, like a British pub you see here. The British pub you see here is good. It's pretty.
Yeah.
Like, this is like cement on the wall. Like it was horrible. Anyway, I get in this place, and the smell is like atrocious.
Oh man.
And then I'm looking for the stage, I'm like, where the hell are we going? Nobody's there. And then this guy comes from behind the bar. Oh, you guys in the band? Yeah. All right, it's downstairs.
Oh, God.
So I'm like, what? Downstairs where? So he opens his door. It's like a dungeon. And we get down there, and I mean, it's like a basement, but there is no stage. It's just a straight up basement. It probably fits like 80 people. And I'm like, okay.
No stage. You just set up on the ground.
Yeah. I'm like, this is, I guess that's where we're playing today. Whatever. At this point I already accepted, but whatever. This is what's happening. Okay. Oh my God. The show starts in like first chord or whatever. Okay, this place is packed too. Like it's. I mean, heck, there's 60 people there, but
but it's
But there's a lot of them, and I want to remind you, it's in England. So we start playing the show. The lights go down, like or whatever. The lights go off. The power goes off. That includes the AC.
Oh shit!
It took him a minute to get it restored or whatever, but somehow the AC never got
kicked back on.
And there we are playing in this basement with like 60 British people, like fucking going nuts.
Right
in our faces, dude. I threw up mid-set. I threw up. The smell was so bad. Imagine,
oh man,
the basement of a shitty pub in Sheffield with a like, dude, and no AC. Like the smell was.
Oh my god!
I'm saying right now, I'm kind of gagging. Remember, it was the worst thing that's ever happened to me, dude. And I threw up. And
that's crazy. You threw up in the middle of the set in a song.
In the middle of the set, right? I'm standing here playing. I did this like.
Oh man!
And I got back up, and I'm like, I can't believe this just happened.
Oh, no.
And then I felt it again.
Oh
and
no!
I felt like it's coming again.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck. And like somehow I swallowed back or whatever. And,
oh man,
dude! And he was sitting there. I think like on the side, he was just sitting there.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, dude. That day I remember being, because this is already like, again, this is not a long time ago. This is like 2015. You know, I was a professional for a long time. I had already big tours. Mm-hmm. Something I signed up for.
Yeah.
And I remember ending the show and like not really thinking anything of it anymore. I'm like, okay, well, this just happened. You know, it just happened.
That's crazy, dude.
Back to their van or whatever, and I laid down. Like, it just happened. That was the worst show of my life.
No, these are great stories, dude. These are great stories, man.
Well, see, the issue with that I see, like for you, where you wouldn't want to take that again, or even taking it in general, is like, you know, okay, you're doing stuff with, say, Trans-Siberian Orchestra, or you got like the circle to circle gigs, you got the bigger gigs where you're touring, and then you get kind of pigeonholed into this 80-person gig in the middle of a dungeon, basically. And then when people come to see you, they're thinking this like big person on stage, you know, doing these tours, and then you're in this small pub, and it's like it's kind of a hit to
that was a very
stuff you've worked for.
Experience too with that band, because I mean, not to mention the band was horrible. The only thing is the artist had a lot of money, but like,
that helps.
The thing. Oh, she's a multi-millionaire.
Wow, awesome.
The only thing about this gig that was cool was that, but like, what was frustrating to me was gigs that people came to see me, you know, and I was like, I don't want you to see me with this backdrop.
Right.
This is not where I want you to see me.
Right.
Like, I probably said that to like 25 people on that tour, you know.
Right.
Oh, I've been a fan forever, and now I get to see you. I'm like, that's a horrible opportunity for you.
Right. That sucks, you know, when that happens, you know, because you always want to be seen in your best environment, you know what I mean? Not doing a gig that you're not.
At that point in time, like, I had a good gig for the end of the year, but I wasn't really working. It was that or sit at home and not make money.
Right. Yeah.
So that's why I took it. But again, I mean, it's part of the experience, you know what I mean, man?
Absolutely, dude. Yeah.
If you don't go through some shit like that, you can't have that experience, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you have to go through it, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's just part of it, you know? That's what makes you appreciate the good from the bad, and what helps you differentiate it from that as well. I
want to hear Rusty's worst gig.
Okay. Yeah, I've got a couple of them. I think the worst all-time gig I've ever played, and I think all of my worst gig stories are not from Austin for some reason. The worst all-time gig was a South by Southwest gig, and we were down there. It was Day of Reckoning, and we're playing this gig, and we're getting ready to go on. We can't find my guitar tech, right? So, you know, it's like, time to go on, man. No guitar tech. So we finally find him, and he's fucking wasted, right? And he's up there trying to get my pedal board to work, and he starts like kicking at it. And I'm like, dude, that's not gonna fix it, bro. You know what I mean? So we finally get the rig working, and now we're on a stage that, as the band's moving, the stage is going like this, right? So the mic on my cabinet's like moving too, on and off the speaker. You know what I mean? So then I discover really quickly that my guitar's not in tune. So I had to swap it out for another one. I had 3 guitars with me, and that one wasn't in tune. I had to swap it out for another one. And this is going on for the first 3 or 4 songs. I mean, it went on pretty much the whole set. But my EMG rep was there, And he finally discovered, because he saw what was going on and went over to try to help my guitar tech, which my guitar tech almost got his ass kicked by my EMG guy, because he discovered that none of the locking nuts on my guitar were locked.
Oh, God.
They hadn't even been tuned up. The nut was open on all my guitars. So they're going out of tune. And it was just like, there were people there that I hadn't seen in a long time and come out to see me. And it was their first time to see me. And it's just like, it was a disaster gig. Man, I walked away from that going, oh my God.
Did you fire the guy?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And here's the great thing. Check this out. It gets worse. So, I mean, after the gig's over, right? One of my students is there with his parent. You know, the father and son both took lessons from me here in Houston, and they both had moved to Austin at this time. So they take us out to dinner, right? And I'm with one of my good friends at the time, and we're my guitar tech's driving. I don't know why we even got in the car with him, but then we had to finally make him pull over because he was driving so bad. We get him out of the car. We get to this restaurant with my student and his dad, and this guy's in there, and he starts spitting in this restaurant. And we're in this nice place, and it's like, oh my God, dude. Just
spitting like on the floor?
Yeah, yeah. And
was this Texas Roadhouse?
No, not at all. This was much nicer than that. So we finally get through that fiasco, and then we're staying with one of my best friends up there. And my son's with me, and he's like, Dad, so-and-so's out in the backyard fighting bushes. Right. So he's out there fighting with the bush. I had to literally get him in the house and make him lay down and go to sleep. Dude, get in there. Dude, I'm not moving out of this doorway till you go to sleep. You know, and he's like being a kid. He's messing with his bed and trying to ruffle the covers up and get it just right. You know, you ever seen like a dog on a mat trying to scratch the pillow to get it right where they would lay down on it? It was like that. He's just being just total child. So I finally get him to sleep. Next morning we wake up, he's gone. Right. And then when he finally shows back up, he's like, oh, hey, guys, what's up? I said, what do you mean, what's up? You don't have anything to say about last night? Well, what do you mean? Didn't remember a thing, or he said he didn't remember a thing. Just act like nothing happened. Oh, yeah, I went to my aunt and uncle. They live down the street and went down there for breakfast. It's like, dude. And to this day, he swears he doesn't remember what happened. It's like, man, well, I'll never forget it. That's for sure. No. Yeah, that's the worst gig ever for me. One of the second... What's that?
You have to live through that, right?
Oh yeah, and I have the memories to boot. But the other one was in Austin. Also, we Outworld played at this place called the Red Eye Fly. It was a NAMM gig, and it's the first time I ever played in Austin. I had no idea what the Red Eye Fly was. Well, the Red Eye Fly is this rock kind of bar, I guess, but you go out back behind the club, and they got a stage back there. It's outside. It's covered, mind you, but it's in Houston, or it's in Austin in August in Texas. You know, it's friggin' hot, dude. Right? So we do sound check. There's some fans blowing and stuff like that. And the stage hangs over a cliff that you could see through, like on the drum riser. The drummer could look through the cracks in the floor and see like 50 feet down or something like that to the creek bottom.
Oh, God.
Right? So, and his in-ears aren't working, and the gig was just off. We were like cutting songs just to get off stage to get in. And again, it's at night in Austin. It's like 100 degrees or something in there, and we're just like dripping. It's hard to hold onto your guitar, and it's a NAMM gig, so everybody's there. You know what I mean? It's not just your fans; it's all your peers there to see you show. Because that was right when I signed with Dean. They brought my first RC7 to me at that gig. And so all the guys from Dean are there seeing this gig. And it's like, my God, man. Could it get any worse? You know, drummers' in-ears didn't work. And
you're about to fall off a cliff.
Yeah, and dude, you're about to have a heat stroke outside. Never thrown up on stage, but if I was going to, that would have been probably the time I threw up.
I never done that either.
Oh, man. Didn't you have somebody throw up on your pedal board?
Yeah, let me tell you my worst show. Great segue. Yeah. So I was in Des Moines, Iowa, and
that's a great way to start with the worst show.
Yeah. And we've played this gig before, you know, and so I had my pedals down there, and it's not even a pedal board as much as it's just like a channel changer, you know, with like a wah pedal and everything, you know. And the guy, they had like this barricade, but they didn't have the barricade there like normally they do, but they didn't this time for some reason. And there was a bunch of people there, and they were all moshing and running around. And you know, there's always like one guy in the audience that's like way taller than everybody, so you notice him right away for no reason. And he was just in the front, just kept doing this. Like I didn't know if he was headbanging or what, but he was just kind of sitting there like, oh, okay. And then I had my board there, and I would turn and I'd, look at the singer and playing, and I turn back and he like pushes my board forward, like towards my feet, and I needed it there because it's right in front of my microphone, so, and I'm like, and that's why I push it back with my foot. and then a couple of minutes later he pushes it, but I thought he was just being pushed, and just kind of like had his hands there. Well, it turns out that he was trying to move it because he had to puke and he just threw up all over the front of the stage. Luckily, he didn't get it on my pedal board. Like, it hit the cable a little bit, but then, so I'm standing there looking down, and there's just this puddle of puke, and it just keeps like rolling over the edge off of the stage. And I'm like looking over at the sound guy. I'm like this, and the sound guy's like, no, I'm not coming over there. And then so finally, like in between one of the songs, I was like, hey, can I get like a waitress over here? And then so they brought one of the bartender ladies over, and I pointed, and she's like, oh, gross. So she came over with like a squeegee, just squeegeed it into a bucket. So that
got clean up on aisle 3.
Yeah, exactly. God, dude, that was the worst, for me as far as that. But the actual worst show that like didn't have involved puking or whatever was at NAMM when I met 2019 when I met Rusty. I was playing with this guitar company, and the guitar company. Did I tell you about this, Bill? The guitar company I was with? Yeah, I didn't get to meet with you that year because you were doing that Randy Rhoads thing, I think.
What year was it?
And I think it was 2019.
Did you play at the Randy Rhoads tribute thing?
We didn't hang out?
Nah, because I left Sunday, and that was the only day you could do. So,
oh shit.
But anyway, so I was with the guitar company, and I show up, and whatever, the booth is all small, and it was weird. And then I had like with Rusty said, where it's a NAMM show, you don't just have maybe some fans or whatever. I had a couple people that knew me, which was cool, but mostly peers, mostly people from Omaha too that were there, and they were like, dude, I can't wait to see you. I'll be there. And so I had 20, 30 people there, musicians that I liked and were there. And I didn't have a guitar because he told me not to bring one. He was like, no, dude, we'll have one here ready for you. And I'm like, okay, cool. I show up. And he was like, well, we don't have a 7-string for you. Is that going to be a problem? And I'm like, well, yeah, considering every single song I play is on a 7-string. So they finally got one from this other guy. And he's like, well, no, I want you to play, the guitar brand. And I'm like, well, you don't have a guitar for me. And so he gets the guy to bring the guitar down. So he brings it down. It's set up like way off the board. Like it was not set up how I like it. And it was an E flat instead of standard. So I was like, what's that?
Because that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, dude, this needs to be in standard. And I'm going on in like a half hour. So then they bring in the guitar tech, and he's doing that. And he's like, I've never done this before. I've never put it up to standard before. And I was like, you're a guitar tech and you've never taken a guitar from half a step to a stand. Right there, I'm like, this is going to be bad. This is bad, dude. And then Alicia, like I start sweating. I'm a sweater. Okay. Like when I get nervous, I sweat. When I get mad, I sweat. Like it's just the way so now I'm just like drenching with sweat. And Alicia's watching me, and she feels so bad for me because, like, when it's like, it seems like maybe kind of whiny, maybe like, oh, I got to carry my own stuff, or I got to have somebody tune my guitar. But it's like, that's their whole thing. Like, that's it.
Right. That was their responsibility.
Yeah. Like, I didn't know. I would have brought my own shit ready to go. Don't rely on other people, I guess. Right.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
The clinic thing for me in my career, half of the time almost is Spinal Tap-ish.
Yeah.
Like when it's, because when it's a band and there's a crew, that's one thing. But when it's a clinic, music store, one of those things, man, there's always something like, it never goes smoothly.
Right, because you're relying on them to set up some kind of PA for you and then have some kind of playback system. And
man, I did a ESP clinic in Brazil. This was this was a long time ago, man. That was are you guys familiar with Luis Calil, this new guitar player?
I don't think so. Who does he play with?
He's a solo artist.
Oh, okay.
Calil. He's a Brazilian. He's only like 20, and he's up and coming right now. A lot of people know about him, but that was like his first clinic ever. He was like 14.
Wow.
We did this clinic together in Brazil. So I get there, And same deal, I'm like, you guys have a guitar for me. We don't have a 7 string.
Oh man.
I'm like, all right, that's fine. I have songs that aren't 7 string. Oh, by the way, we also don't have any ESPs. We just have these lower tier LTDs. Oh man. Because that's what we sell in Brazil. I'm like, that's fine. We're still in Brazil. I get so the day before, I'm like, what about an amp? What do you guys have for amps? Oh, we don't really have any amps. What am I playing? Am I playing an amp?
Wow.
Right. Well, see, and then
that's crazy, dude. We don't have amps.
Yeah, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Well, at the NAMM thing, when I showed up, they had a little gig amp like this big, and I was like, I thought you were going to have like a thing.
They gave me.
Well, then the amp blew out. Because people were playing on it too much during the day. So the amp blew out, and then they had PV like monitors up, for like sound system. And they're like, well, we'll plug you into this Line 6 pod that we had, which already sounds digital and terrible from even back in the day. So they plugged me in there. It sounds horrible. And then the right speaker blew out of the PA system. So all my guitars, all my tracks, because I was playing through my backing tracks, which have kind of cues on the left and right, so I kind of know where I'm at sometimes. All of it's coming through the left ear. And it's like 5 minutes to play. And I'm like, well, I guess we're just going to make the best of it. And I'm sweating the whole time. And so the guitar was out of tune because he didn't know how to set it up right. I had to like sit there and help him. Like, no, dude, the bridge started pulling up bad. Man. It was so bad, man. And that's like, awful. And then I'm sweating. And then, of course, the guy who was the owner was standing there like, oh, this kid's so good. And I'm like, I fucking hate you right now, dude. Like, and then after that, we left. I told Alicia, I was like, I don't want to be here anymore. And because I had more fun driving to California than I did actually doing the NAMM thing.
That's bad when the drive was better.
Yeah, we met a donkey. That was cool. I had more fun hanging out with this donkey at this gas station. That was it. Yeah. So
that's hilarious, dude.
I'll show you photos.
This is the one company that has a few issues, right? Like legal issues.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
a few.
Luckily, they didn't get me for any money, so that was nice. That was something that I was, because he kept asking me like, "Oh, you're gonna, support the brand?" And I was like, "Well, let me have a guitar first."
Support the brand.
Yeah. What is the brand? Is there a brand?
That's not how it works. You give me a guitar, and then I tell people that I play. This is how it works, buddy.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, for sure, man. I have a student still. He's from Greece. That had the same deal with the same company, and he came to the USA for a couple weeks, and he had instead of having them ship it over there and pay the charges, he had them ship it to my house. So when he came to see me, the guitar was here, and he just took it back with him. He didn't have to do all the customs or whatever. But when he got here and we opened it up, it's like, oh, dude, this is not good. I mean, it looked like some random body that had been spray painted, and the action's really high, crappy neck, and this is his first supposed to be his signature guitar, right? So he knows it sucks, and I can see it in his eyes, but he won't say it. You know what I mean? It's like, oh no, it's pretty cool, man. And I'm like, dude, come on, bro. So anyway, he gets home, he's like, man, you're right. It's like, so yeah, he went as far as getting a guitar, and it was just a total piece of crap. Now I guess that guy's in prison or on the run, or the guy from the company or whatever.
Yeah, something like that. It's that's bad,
crazy, man.
It's just like where, I understand, like, sometimes you have bad business relationships because that's just what happens in business. Mm-hmm. But when you actively put yourself out there as a terrible person, you get exactly what you deserve. I mean, in every case of the word.
Yeah, and I mean, that shit's going to catch up with you. I mean, I don't know how long the guy thought he was going to get away with it. I mean, what do you think was going to happen? That this company was all of a sudden going to magically take off and have great guitars? You know what I mean? If you got nothing to begin with, where do you go from there?
Well, it doesn't help when you lie to people about where the guitars were made to begin with.
Right. Yeah.
And then claim they were made in America, and they weren't. They were just assembled in America, which is totally different. And I don't have anything against guitars not being made in America necessarily, but don't claim they are, and then...
Well, that's false advertising and just flat out lying, Mm-hmm. I would be upset too. Sure.
But anyway, off that subject, because that's just going to make my blood boil.
Yeah. Well, I got one more thing to add to it.
Yeah.
Because it's like the more we talk about these bad gigs, the more bad memories come back about other bad gigs.
We can talk about bad gigs. I just meant that guitar company. I don't want to talk about them anymore.
Sure. So Have you ever been in a situation where you're at NAMM and all of a sudden somebody wants to do an interview with you and they put you in one of those guitar booths with like the shittiest guitar and the shittiest little amp and all right, go shred, Rusty, shred. And it's like, oh, what, on this? You got to be kidding me. You know, I had that happen a few times at NAMM and it's always awful. It's like you pick it up and you play on it and you go, you know to yourself, you're just like, man, I'm not going to be able to play any of my cool shit on this. You know what I mean? So you just kind of have to fake it and play some kind of chunky rhythms and a couple noodly licks or something. It's like, just try to salvage it and still look cool. You know what I mean?
It's so funny, the psychology of that, because with you describing, I can think of like many situations where I've been in that, you know, where I've actually been in that situation. And my mind they told me the same thing that you're saying. Oh, maybe I can salvage by playing this stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Blues stuff. Maybe I can play some. That happened in China, man. I went to the ESP shop just to be introduced to them. Because I was in China just because my wife works there, you know. Okay. And the guy's like, oh, you wanna try any of the guitars? I'm like, yeah, you know. So I grabbed this one. It's kind of weird, but dude, the guy brings a camera and he starts filming me, and I'm like, whoa. You know, you're filming like is this like a video that we're doing for ESP? What is this? Oh no, I'm just doing some video. Just play something. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I'm like, what do you guys wanna do? You know, so he's like, well, just say a few things about it. I'm like, well, I can say it, but I really don't want to play, you know? Yeah. So what they did is they edited the video, and then there's me talking, and then there's like me playing at the beginning, just super bad when I didn't even know they were filming me. And they actually uploaded this video.
Oh my God. That's the worst, dude. That's the worst.
Same deal too. A little amp, the guitar stuff really bad, high action. I'm like,
yeah. And it's like the worst low gain tone ever. It's like cank. It's like, what can you do with that? I don't know, man. You just hope for the best and try to salvage and get out of there, and you know.
Being a guitarist is a great job, man. We do the best situations.
Yeah, man. Those are tough.
One of the things that I did, man, was like, especially like, because when you're playing, everybody wants to think of it as like, oh man, it's just a passion or it's a passion project or something, but it's a business really at the end of the day. You have to take it seriously, and not just because somebody's paying you to, but just for your mental health, your physical well-being, like just so you don't get sick while you're out there, or, you know, whatever you're doing. Right. And you don't want to like you don't want to show up and look unprepared and look like a jackass either, you know, because whether people understand it or not, you're the one that looks like an asshole if you don't have shit together. They don't know about what's going on over here, and they don't care. They're there to
they don't care.
Yeah, and whether what's going on is your fault or not, it could be somebody else's fault there that's making this a bad situation. But the people that are watching you don't see that, so they just think it's you.
Exactly. And so what I did was I set myself up like, you know, in the band that I'm in, where everybody gets a checklist from me. Like I just took reign of it because we always kept leaving shit. We'd leave shit at the venue, and then I had to go pick it up, or they'd have to send it to us, or, you know, I forgot the cable. And one time our, you know, drummer left a laptop there with all of our stuff. And I'm like, dude, we can't have that. So I like made a checklist, and everybody had to sign off on the checklist before we would leave. And I had to specifically see all the stuff like, you know, bass player, do you have your bass? Do you have your cable? Do you have your amps? Do you have your pedals? Like everybody, I took inventory before every show. Do you have it? And that was before we left and before we came back. Like everybody had to check off the list, and they were so mad at me about it. But guess what? We never lost anything, and we never had to worry about it.
It's pretty bad. A lot of times it's like that. You know, having to babysit your bandmates, you know what I mean?
And it's fine as long as you don't get pissy with me about it, because I'm trying to protect us from stupid shit. And, you know, my band is under my LLC. So, like, I took care of that, too, because I wasn't going to sit here and go, when am I getting paid? Or did we get paid? Did you get paid? Did I get paid? Now nobody can get paid but me. Like, they tried to go over there. I was like, I forgot about it. I said, hey, go grab the money because I'm bloating. And they were like, no, we can't. You're not the owner of the band. And they were like, oh. Okay. Oh. So they had to like come get me, but I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Total flex too, you know, like you kind of had to, but that's, somebody has to take charge. And I feel like everybody wants it to be an equal 25% across the board for all four members, but it can't be that way. Sometimes you have to make a decision of who's leading it and be okay with it.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's a tough situation to be in too. That's like, you know, because then people are going to start bitching about who's getting more and why are you getting more and this and that. And I do my equal part. And it's like, well,
you though? Did you forget your bass at the venue?
Yeah.
Oh, then you didn't do your equal part.
And I can't tell you how many times people have, left stuff at the gig, and, you're 100 miles away, before you realize you're setting up the next day. And it's like, oh, where's my laptop? Just like you said, we left some lights or this or that. And it's like, man, who was in charge of this? We got everything loaded. Everybody checked. But,
well, see, and Rusty knows, like, I'm super OCD with everything that I do. And it's not literally like, you see some people are like, oh my God, if my room's not clean, I get so anxious. I'm OCD. Like, no, literally, like, diagnosed, doctor, you're fucked up, dude.
Yeah.
Like, the doctor didn't say that, but pretty close.
But he meant it.
Yeah. He's like, dude, you have to, like, take control of stuff. Otherwise your OCD is going to get way out of control. Like, just make sure that you're in control of anything that, because otherwise you're just going to panic, like if you can feel like you have that, and that's why those situations make me sweat so bad, because like I'm out of control. Everything's out of control. And it hurts. I know. I'm start sweating thinking about it.
Yeah. That's funny, dude. That's funny.
It's good, man. I mean, that's a very valuable skill. I don't have that. I wish I was like that.
What skill?
Basically the organizational skill. Like, you have everything ready in your head and you expect people, you uphold people to it. That is a skill, like that is something I'm not able to do,
Yeah. It's a tough, and you have to, I think as Zach was thrusted into it because of his, irresponsible bandmates,
Yep.
I don't think it's something you set off you wanted to do. Right. But because of all the things that had happened, it's like, well, somebody's got to take charge and fix the situation because this is not working out. Right.
That's kind of how I'm doing with my band now too. Just be like, I just do things, and if someone has a problem with it, they can let me know. But like,
right. I mean, right. So, and that's true. It's like when it's your thing, you know what I mean? Then you really want to make sure everything's right, because then it's all going to come back to you.
Mm-hmm.
Anything goes wrong or anything doesn't work right, it's going to make,
you're the one. See, and here's the other thing that a lot of people maybe don't understand or don't think about is it's not only that, like, not only do the good things come to you, all the bad things come to you too. Like, all the backlash comes to you. Somebody misrepresents the band or misrepresents the brand. It's most of the time not going to be on them. It's going to be on you, and it's up to you to make sure that whoever you hire for the band or whoever you hire for your projects or your business or whatever it is, you got to vet them first a little bit. You have to make sure that they're going to be responsible. And if they can't play ball, like with Bill, you had that situation where you really didn't like the situation, but you didn't actively go out of your way to screw anybody. You just went, I'm going to be a professional. I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And that's what you need. And you knew it wasn't a 50-50 project. You were for hire, and that's okay. It was boundaries right away.
Yeah. In the world of heavy metal too, or I would say rock bands in general, anything that's underground too, there's a gray area where people have a hard time understanding. Like, for example, if you want to be the leader of the band, like you are, like I'm trying to be, you also have all the responsibility, as we're talking about. But you cannot expect, or at least in my case, I don't, like people like to do any of the heavy lifting. You have to kind of do it. And when the time comes to like, you almost have to give the credit away, is what I mean. You know what I mean? Like, it's you do all this work, you set up the LLC, like you said, you get paid, you do all that, but it's our band. You know what I mean? So sometimes it's hard to find musicians that will be okay with like with not getting the credit, or like it's this area of like where I was stuck. People were expecting me to do lab work for her band, but calling me a hired gun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, right.
That's not cool.
Like, am I carrying your gear or am I a hired gun? Right. If I'm carrying your gear, then I'm making a fifth of the fucking show money. I'm not making your fee.
Yeah.
So I think in the pop world that doesn't happen. If you're gonna play with Katy Perry, you play for Katy Perry. You're not gonna, like.
Right.
Well, that's the thing. It's like metal seems like everybody. The word of the day would be it's a passion project. Oh, I can't believe you're not in with the band, man. I can't believe you're not getting in with this. You know, this is such a great opportunity. Versus you're either hired or you're either an employee or an independent contractor, but you can't be both.
Yeah, that thing, you know, we're starting the band, man. We're gonna do this. It's gonna be great. But in the meantime, you can't take any other gigs.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
One of my favorite quotes of all time from a business book that I read was, nobody will work on your business or brand as hard as you will, but everybody wants the same back.
Yeah. Yeah.
They want their piece of the pie.
I said something early in the interview or in the show, Bill, about Kiko. Did you take lessons from him?
Yeah.
He was your teacher?
He was my only teacher. Well, no, he wasn't my only teacher. He was one of two teachers that I had. That's
cool. I didn't know that. Did you start with him when you were a beginner, or when did you?
I did. I had I started real young. I was probably 11 or 12.
Okay.
In my school, I was probably like younger. I was like 5th grade or something.
Yeah.
There was like a guy that played acoustic guitar at school and sang the songs, and he was teaching lessons. So I took maybe like 2 or 3 lessons from that guy. But then that guy, I think that guy himself, you got to keep in mind too, like at the time he wasn't the superstar that he is now. Like Angra was on their first album. This is like 93, 94 or something, 95 maybe. And so this guy tells me about him, and I knew of him as a guitar teacher. I didn't really know about the band at this point. But then I became obsessed with the band because of him, you know. And I started taking lessons. I remember at the time he didn't even have. He had to be like 23 or 24. He was real young, and he didn't even have any spots for new students. So I had to wait. For a little bit, but then I did. I think my mid-teens, basically, I studied with him between like 95 and 99 or something like that.
Tell me about that time. You remember I took you out to dinner when you came to town, and you told me about how one time he got really mad at you, like at one of your practice sessions.
Well, I mean, that was kind of a constant thing at the time, but he was sharing a lot of knowledge with me that I wasn't ready to take on. You know, like I always say that I was very much focused on becoming fast. That was my obsession at the time. You know, I wanted to become fast. I wanted to become, I wanted to play. I was absolutely fucking obsessed with Yngwie Malmsteen at the time. So I knew like every song, or thought I knew. And he was like, I'll never forget my first lesson. I was a little kid, man. And I came and he's like, all right, play something for me. And I played what I thought was Far Beyond the Sun. And no backing track, nothing, just a 14-year-old. I have no idea. I can't even imagine how bad that sounded. I wish I could get a recording.
Yeah.
But then as I was playing, again, I'm 13, 14 years old. As I was playing, I'm thinking to myself, oh, he's super impressed. Oh yeah. And then we got to that part with the tremolo picking and all that. I was like, yeah, I'm really going to blow his mind now. And then at the end of it, he's like, all right. Well, I asked you to play something. That's, you got to start over. Like his reaction was very much like, what the fuck are you doing? It was his basic reaction, you know, like it's like, all right, we got to start over. And then he started gave me major scale, but the major scale in the correct way. This is the formula. These are the intervals. Here's the notes all over the neck. I knew the 3-5-7, 3-5-7, 4-5-7 position. Yeah,
right.
And I'm like, I already know major scale. I don't need, I really don't need to learn that. I must have been like if not the worst, one of the worst students that dude's ever had, because it was, he would give me things that now as a professional, I understand he was giving me the right things. He was teaching me right.
Yeah.
But my hardware wasn't there. Yeah. You know what I mean? And quite honestly, towards the end of it, when I was already older, I could see his frustration too. Like to this day, kind of like when I see him, I kind of like talk to him the same way I used to at 14. I've known the guy my whole life, you know. So it was, but it was, I would say that all of the basics of guitar, major scale, all the minor scales, difference between the minor scales, well, the beginning of the modes, you know, like what the modes sound like,
right?
Intervals, all of that I learned from all of that.
That's awesome.
Triad arpeggios, all the positions, we're both from Brazil, you know, and he even tried to get me a little bit into bossa nova. So he taught me Garota de Ipanema, the girl from Ipanema. He taught me Bach Boré, you know, the everybody plays. He taught me that. He, you know, all these basic things that you need to know as a guitar player, you know. But it was a great experience. After him, I went and I took lessons with another very, very, very renowned Brazilian teacher named Sidney Carvalho. He's not well known in the States, but he is in Brazil. You know, like one of the top teachers there. Now, Sidney was teaching me the other side, because I came to Sydney doing the same thing I did at Kiko's lessons, but cleaner, and now understanding a little bit of theory. And then Sydney was like, all right, now we're going to look at the Don Mock video. That was the first thing he said, Don Mock. Well, listen to that guy. And I remember thinking it was so boring at the time. Like, I remember watching, because it was in Brazil, you had to like pirate the VHS. You go to the store, you pay, and a month later they get it for you with a black and white cover. I remember getting home and popping in the VHS and being so disappointed, being like, what the fuck? This is nothing like what I want to learn. And now, man, I went back to the Don Mock video when I was like 28, you know, but this guy was trying to teach me when I was 15. You know, he Don Mock, he gave me, he started showing me Scott Henderson's blues stuff, not the super crazy tri-effects fusion. He was trying to get me into the blues. Dude, I don't have the blues in my playing to this day, I say. I can play the notes. I know, you know, you never hit a minor third. It's always a little sharp, you know. I know the notes. I can sound like I know what I'm doing, but I don't have the blues in my. I don't have it. I don't grab a guitar and you believe that I listened to Howlin' Wolf when I was a kid.
Right. Yeah.
Like, I don't have that, and Sydney, this teacher that I'm telling you, he really tried to introduce me to that at the right time, and I ignored it. You know, I was an idiot.
The story that I remember, which was with you and Kiko, where he got mad at you. The one that I remember specifically that made me laugh was he gave you an exercise to take home from Steve Morse, I think, and
I'm Not Your Lover, the Deep Purple thing.
Yeah, and you like, from what I understand, like he told you to go play, and it's all alternate picking, and that was the point, an exercise to only alternate pick, and you came back hammering on and pulling off, and he was like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
It was. I mean, I don't think he was. Maybe I was a little too. Maybe I explained it too. He wasn't too like he's yelled at me for more than that. Like he's yelled at me more. That particular one that you're talking about. It was Steve Morse. I'm Not Your Lover. Is this? It's a lick. I won't even try to play now because I don't remember. But it's very reminiscent of the Too Many Notes. You know the track with alternate. And it's a Purple song. And he gave it to me to show me how to do that. And I came playing, I was sleeping. And he's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" The whole point of me giving you this exercise.
Right.
Was to get the alternate picking. Yeah. And I remember at the time I didn't really know Steve Morse to know that he did that. You know, like I wasn't familiar enough to know that what we were trying to do. To me, if you're playing those triads, then you sweep. That's again because my ego, you know, I always thought that I knew that I knew more than everybody else. But he was good, man. And then, then after Sydney, what happened after him? Yeah, after him, I went to music school. Oh yeah, then that's the period that I thought I was so good at guitar, nobody's better than me. That I was telling you, the images and words period. Mm-hmm. So this is when I was going to music college. At that point, I thought I was so good, no teacher could teach me. So I didn't take any guitar lessons. I just took singing lessons, piano lessons. I studied composition.
That's crazy, dude.
Yeah. And because it was such a wasted opportunity. When I think about it, I was a fucking idiot. I went to MI after that, after this college, I went to MI. And I went as a non-core student, international student, but I didn't. But it's basically like a summer program that you don't really get grades. You can choose what to study, you can pick your classes. Yeah. And I didn't pick any guitar lessons. It was like accent reduction, songwriting, lyric writing. I thought it was just too good to study guitar. And when I think about it now, I'm like, what a fucking idiot! I lost the opportunity to learn so much because I thought, I'm already good. I just need to learn now how to write or intervals or whatever.
Right. Oh, that's crazy, man. It's funny. When I was a kid, dude, I wanted to go to GIT so bad, man. And it just didn't happen because my parents just couldn't afford it. I mean, GIT is they don't have dorms. It's not like a regular college or anything like that. At least it wasn't back then, because this would have been for me.
Now it's a college. Now it's a college, but I don't think it was until the early 2000s.
It was just a trade school back when I was going to go. Yeah. And it was probably like 87 or 88 when I wanted to go, a long time ago. And but that's when Paul Gilbert was teaching there. That's when Frank Gambale was there and Scott Henderson and, all the heavy hitters. Jeff Berlin was there and everybody was coming through stuff. So, but man, I would have given a lot to go.
Talking about, my parents gave me that opportunity when I was like 20 and I just threw it away. I don't want to take guitar lessons. Again, as I said earlier in the chat, it took me becoming a professional, going and touring to then play with professionals and see that I suck and go back to restudy the Don Mock video. And
there you go, dude. I have that video.
Yeah, it's very important. Right? It's hard to imagine being a guitar player without knowing that information.
Oh yeah.
I can't. I didn't have until age 28.
Not knowing theory and that stuff, it's a terrifying thought. I can't imagine not knowing it and just kind of relying just solely upon my ear to figure something out on the fly of the moment or whatever.
There's people that can do that, but I'm not one of them. I'm definitely not one of them. And especially now, like the older I get, the more that I hear the intervals more and more clearly, so when I hear a song on the radio and I'm like, that was a very clear, fourth right there.
Right. Yeah.
When that starts happening, I think, what if I didn't know what a fourth sounds like?
Right.
How would I hear this? How would I identify what I'm hearing?
Exactly.
Just the other day I had not an argument, but like a healthy discussion with a musician that I play with, a pro that believes that you don't need theory, that believes that it's all about the heart and all that. And he starts telling me about how theory gets in the way of his playing. And I'm like, wait a second, dude, no. Like, you play a power chord because it's a fifth, that doesn't sound any different. Because he's like, because I like to play. And he started playing a bunch of power chords. And I was like, okay, you're playing parallel fifths. The fact that that you're playing parallel fifths doesn't make it less powerful,
Yeah.
And then he else, I'm like, you're playing a triad. He was doing the Van Halen tapping thing. I'm like, okay, that is a triad, root, third, fifth. Like the knowledge that you're doing that doesn't make it any different.
Right. Yeah.
But knowing what you are doing does make a difference for you. You know?
It makes a huge difference, and it opens up the possibilities of more things you can do with that information.
Well, on this part of my song, I want the song go from happy to sad.
Right.
So instead of like writing major right here, I'm going to put a chord progression that goes to the triad. That's right. But I know exactly what's going to sound like.
Yeah, very true. I like with my students, sometimes, I have to kind of coax them into learning theory. And I tell them it's kind of like this. I said, to me, not knowing theory is kind of like getting dropped off in the middle of nowhere in the middle of the night with nothing and told to find your way home. You know, if you don't get eaten by wolverines or bears or some shit and you happen to make it home, you're lucky. But if you get dropped off out there in that same situation, you got a flashlight, GPS, a phone, you can get yourself out of there. That's like what knowing theory is like. Or imagine, there's another one I use is imagine not, being able to read the English language, right? So you can't read street signs. You can't sit down at a restaurant and open up the menu and, what are you going to ask for? A picture book that's what not knowing theory is how I compare it to, you know what I mean? It's like, how do you function? But I mean, there's plenty of great players out there that don't know theory and do great. And sometimes you're amazed to find out when somebody that you really like and plays great doesn't know anything about what they're doing. It's like, wow, I think
2 examples of that would be like Eddie Van Halen and like George Lynch.
Well, Eddie knew a lot of more theory than I don't know if he didn't lead on to knowing theory, but he knew his shit.
For example, he knew he was playing arpeggio triads on Eruption when people had no idea what triads were. Guitar players, like that. It's all a point in time. Nowadays, man, and this is one thing I say too. There's a lot. Eddie Van Halen is not an example, but there's other guitar players that get so much praise, and I'm like, well, no. He just understood a little bit more theory than everybody else in 1984. It's like he's not that good, but. There's a whole generation of guitar players that think that know theory as much theory to understand what Randy Rhoads did, and it kind of stops there. Like they know the harmonic minor scale, but they don't know the melodic minor. It's a very interesting thing because I cannot imagine theory hurting unless you're like trying to things fit. It's
like a rule book or something.
But even then, like experience teaches you that doesn't work like that.
Yeah, you can't. I tell my students, it's like theory is just a way to understand what it is that you've created, what it is you're hearing. I can give my mom a theory book; she can read it and understand it, but she can't play a note on any instrument. But it's understandable. You can comprehend this information, and then what you do with it is limitless. I mean, it opens your mind up to more and more possibilities that you might not have ever thought of you could even do or even try.
You're like the reason that I got into theory, because I read it in a magazine. It was like I think it was Guitar World or something. It was in the back and it had like a little photo of you and it was all this cool stuff. And I didn't understand any of the words, Lydian, Mixolydian. Like I didn't know any of that at the time. Mm-hmm. And then your quote on top was something like, I can't remember exactly what it was, but like, you were like, theory isn't going to stunt your playing. And that's what I had in my head. Yeah. And you're like, theory doesn't stunt my playing. It gives me all the right tools to get where I want to go or something like that. And it's just like, I was like, wow, if this guy's like kind of knows his stuff, I want to know what Mixolydian means and Lydian. And the one thing that I would say about like my students though, where it does flip a bit is where they 100% like, they dove into like, they want to learn how to solo. And all they want to do is learn the modes. And you're like, well, what are you going to do with them? Yeah. Well, I just want to learn the patterns. And it's like, then they learn the theory of it, but they don't apply it to anything. And then they go, why does my playing still suck? It's like, well, I mean, yeah, you can know what it means too. But if you haven't sat and like jammed with it a little bit, just put a Lydian or put like an E major track on and jam Lydian, jam Mixolydian, and then jam some other ones and just see how all those different notes come together.
That very concept right there. What you just said right there is amazing. How the amount of guitar players that don't even get to that. They get, this is my Ionian, this is my Dorian, this is my Phrygian.
Yeah, it's funny because
to scale at different spots.
Yeah, I'm primarily a self-taught guitar player, so I taught myself all the modes. I taught myself like through Metal Method and stuff like that. So I taught myself the modes and stuff like that, and there was a lot of missing things because when I started trying to improvise, I thought of all the modes like major, Dorian, Phrygian, etc. I thought when I was in that position, I was playing a Phrygian. Like if I'm in the Phrygian position, If I'm in the Lydian position, I thought I was playing a Lydian. Like so, I'd come up with all these licks that I thought were mode X or whatever, and it's completely wrong. So when I'm trying to play over backing tracks, well, I'm in key, but everything sounds wrong. you know, hitting the wrong target tones and things like that. So it took a while to, you know, because I developed my chops early on, but I didn't understand how to apply it, even though I knew theory, but I still didn't understand how chords and the modes actually function individually. Or if you're playing over G major chord progression, all 7 positions are now G major. They're not the mode name anymore. Yep. It's like pentatonic pattern 1 through 5. You don't give them, you know, each one doesn't have a specific mode name. It's just box 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, so when you're in a mode, it's box 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You know, because you're not in that mode. It's like, you know, sometimes.
Oh, so you just keep it all like, say, all G major. You're just playing it different. So if you don't really consider it a new mode.
No, if I'm in G major, the whole fretboard from open to 24 that's all G major. In any way you slice it up, it's only becomes a mode when you change the chord progression to outline the sound of that mode. Then the whole fretboard becomes that mode. So with a lot of my students that I have a hard time grasping that, I'll print out the modes 7 times, all in the same key, just highlight a different root note. And they'll go, well, these are all the same. It's like, well, that's what I've been trying to tell you. It's all the same, but you got to change the emphasis of where the root note's at. You know, it's not a mode until you play it over that mode's progression. It's like, tell them to play all the modes parallel. Play G major, G Dorian, G Phrygian, G Lydian, and then tell me it's the same. It's not. Yeah. That's because when you hear the modes parallel from a beginning standpoint, that's when you really hear the modes, because when you learn them, you know, I teach the modes in a derivative approach first, because who wants to learn 7 keys at once by doing them parallel, right? That's not a good way to learn the modes. So as I'm teaching the modes, the derivative approach, all from one key, then I'll start playing them all parallel so that they can actually hear the difference. Because until you play all the modes over a specific chord progression, they all just sound like the major scale to a certain extent until you know how to use them, right? So, but as soon as you play them parallel, then it's like, oh, that's like day and night. Like I'll do something like this, just with the clean tone. Let me see if I find a pick. I would do like an E drone and just play like an octave. Here's the major scale. Okay, so now let's listen to E Phrygian. And then they're like instantly, it's like, oh yeah, that doesn't sound anything alike. You know what I mean? So when you're playing parallel, Lydian. Right, and it's when you can, a student, you know, in the beginning phases hears them parallel. That's when they finally get it, because you know, if you run all the modes in one key, they just kind of do sound like G major until you figure out how that works.
When I came out, like I always use this as the example, like a lot of people that were influenced by Metallica. Like I was never a huge Metallica fan. I was more like, I liked Megadeth a little more, and then I liked Dream Theater. But Metallica was like, you know, when I was young, it was like, oh, that's just old metal. Even though Megadeth the same age, it just sounded cooler, I guess, to me. But I was inspired by so many bands that Metallica was their favorite band. So inadvertently, I'm inspired by Metallica, whether I wanted to be or not. Like, you know, you got Bullet for My Valentine, Trivium, and, you know, like those kind of guys that were the shredders of the day when I was growing, you know, up and guitar wise. So inadvertently, you end up being inspired by those people. Like,
whether you realize it or not, you know.
Yeah. So I mean, I knew about Yngwie before I knew about Rusty, but I listened to Rusty more than I had listened to Yngwie at that time. Like I was listening to Under the Influence and Dark Matter, and
right, which was heavily influenced. That's the whole, you know, Under the Influence is my tribute to Paul Gilbert, Yngwie Malmsteen, and Jason Becker, my 3 biggest influences, you know what I mean?
Which is hilarious because I actually heard your riff first.
And thought Malmsteen was copying me.
At first I was like, and then I heard I'll See the Light Tonight, and I went, God, he's been fucking playing Rusty Cooley. And then my dad just like comes out of nowhere like a ghost, and he's like, what are you talking about? Because my dad's like, no, dude, he ripped that off of Yngwie. And I was like, oh, and then I was like, oh, I guess they did come out at different times.
Yeah. Like,
but that's how it is, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know. They don't hear, you know, like, what's that old person band? And it's like, you know, Metallica. Like,
oh, those old guys.
Yeah. Really a theory down to 20 years. I think that happens every 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So like, probably 2 generations or so.
Yeah, right now the bands that came out in 2000 sound old to people that are like 15 now.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is crazy to think.
Yeah, it is. It is crazy. It's like, it's like, where does all the time go, you know?
Yeah,
I mean, you guys were talking about, Zach, you were talking about Metallica. Dude, I remember when Kill 'Em All came out. A friend of mine had it on vinyl, and it was like Seek and Destroy, and
mind blowing too.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the same time,
great album.
Metallica came out was the same time I heard Merciful Fate for the first time. So you got these 2 extremely different things, but 2 uniquely innovative things at the same time. So different, you know what I mean? Because I liked both of those, and then then I remember hearing the Queensryche EP. I don't know if you're a fan of Queensryche, man, but
first one.
The EP with Queen of the Reich. That was the first thing I heard by Queensryche was Queen of the Reich, and Tate comes on with that long that note that he holds in the beginning of that. It was like, because before then I was a big Rob Halford and Bruce Dickinson fan, and then I hear Jeff Tate holding this note. It's like, holy shit!
I loved Operation Mindcrime.
It's just the notes. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah, man. It was. Mindcrime's a great album, dude.
They had that like VHS thing, right? Where like they went on tour with the Operation Mindcrime, and they had like this whole play along thing that they did. That was the first time I heard of them. Yeah. What's that, Bill?
Operation Live Crime is called.
Yeah.
Operation Live Crime. And my dad had that, and he would play it all the time. So I'd always walk past the TV, or it'd be on, and that's like my biggest memory from them. Like, what a great band. But I assume like when people heard Yngwie or they heard Metallica, that's probably the exact same feeling. Like, I wish I had that feeling back in the 70s if I would have seen Kiss for the first time. Like, that's how I assume it was that revolutionary in that moment. But I wish I could have been back in the 70s to witness that. Like, that's my thing.
Yeah, it would have been cool to see Kiss then in their heyday. In their youth when they were just starting touring their first record. To see a band that's so legendary like that in their infancies would be mind blowing. You know what I mean?
But that's funny because they talk about, they're like, well, technically Kiss is better than ever now, and it's like, yeah, but I don't give a shit. Like, because you guys are all like, whatever now. Like, yeah, your stage production is better, but I want to go see back in the 70s what it was like just that raw energy. You know that
they really have a great gimmick going though. You know what I mean? The makeup and the outfits, because when you see them in their outfits, they still don't look old. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But when they take their outfits off, then you can see, oh, wow, these guys are like in their 60s or 70s or whatever. And it's even weird to think of them in their 60s or 70s, because I still don't think of them as old, but I mean, it happens to everybody.
Well, and the thing too is like now they're talking about how, they've already replaced Peter and Ace, and they've got Tommy Thayer and Eric Singer, which they're great musicians. Like, what a great gig for them, but they're talking like when Gene and Paul retire, Tommy and Eric will take over the band, and they're going to get two new people to take over their makeup and keep Kiss going as a brand.
Oh, that's crazy.
In my mind that's going to happen, and then Gene is going to be the manager and make 80% still.
That's crazy.
That's what he said.
But I mean, that makes sense. He said
he would manage the band and Paul would manage the music. So they're going to put new albums out with 0 original members, all in makeup, for as long as they can go.
And Kiss is just going to be it's like just a corporate or big business that's like never ending.
Like a franchise almost.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's what the Trans-Siberian Orchestra was conceived to do from the beginning. It would never matter who's in the band.
But the problem, though, it works with somebody like Trans-Siberian Orchestra because you've got two separate ones that can go and do two separate things and hit everything at the same time. But with Kiss, every single one of them had a personality. Like Eddie Trunk talked about it, where he's like, Dimebag Darrell has a tattoo of Spaceman on his chest before he died, right? He didn't have a tattoo of Spaceman. He had a tattoo of Ace Frehley, as Spaceman. It was his connection to Ace as a human. He didn't have Tommy Thayer on his body. He didn't have the Spaceman. Right. So it's a little different maybe because Trans-Siberian Orchestra, you set out to do that was the whole goal. Like nobody has that tattoo of the specific member as a character. So, I mean, if it's just like anything else, if you're telling everybody that from the beginning that's your goal, then I'm fine with it. But no, I like when I have my Kiss dolls here.
And,
like,
and
this
you,
is
Bill, you realize he's a big Kiss fan, right?
Who?
Zach?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You get that, right? Did you see his shirt? Show him your shirt. Come on.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yes, dude. I mean, okay, I've got all these cool. What's that?
I said that's a little obsessive.
No, it's not. Look at this cool caricature I got.
Shit, dude. Now he's busting out the Kiss stuff.
I just got some of it here, but anyway, my point though is that none of this over here and on my walls is Tommy Thayer or Eric Singer, and not by purpose, but just because it's like I don't actively set out to not buy those things, but to me, that's Ace Frehley, that's Peter Criss, that's the group, and that's how I would choose to keep it forever.
So do you think there's a difference in Diamond Darrell and Dimebag Darrell?
No, I don't think so, because I think
and
that
I was just kind of fucking around with that question anyway.
Oh, I thought you were real. Like I was like, well, because
Is
to
there a
him, he
difference
was
between
doing it as a
Diamond
joke.
Daryl or Dimebag? Well, there is a difference. Diamond Daryl wore spandex and had big teased up hair, and Dimebag was a totally different animal, right?
Maybe. Well, anyway, we'll stop talking about Kiss. So before we wrap this up, is there anything that, Bill, that you want to talk about that's going on that you want to make sure people kind of know about and, just give us a quick spotlight on you and what you're up to.
And where can people find all your info?
Yeah, man. Thank you guys so much for having me. And I think I talked about it all, but I'm going to do a quick wrap up for the person listening. My current band is called NorthTale. It's my main project, is what I'm pushing the most. So if you haven't checked it out yet, please do. NorthTale online. We are a power metal band with a very clean melodic singer, lots of shredding. Well, I guess 90s shredding. And you should check it out if you have some time. I would say I'm going to do an instrumental record, but I'm not going to say that because every time I say I don't do it.
Right. Yeah.
And man, just waiting on that. Just working on that album right now. I have some touring at the end of the year with I Am Morbid and NorthTale as well, but mainly I'm focusing on the band. If your listeners would check us out, that would be awesome. We're gonna our new album is coming out hopefully in September via Nuclear Blast Records worldwide.
Awesome. Congrats on that.
Yeah, we're gonna have some cool guests. If you liked, I don't know, Halloween and Stradivarius and even Yngwie, back in the day, there's a lot of that on the project. And yeah, man, I think that's about it for now. Thank you guys for having me. I really like the opportunity to talk about, and your audience is an audience that I really want to reach, guitar players, people that are good guitar players that want to know and talk about guitar. I don't think that I am much in that. I don't think I am in that market as much as I would like to be. Mm-hmm. So I really appreciate you guys giving me some space for this.
Absolutely, man. It's a pleasure. Hey, dude, by the way, I love your shirt, man.
Oh, thanks, man.
That's a great shirt, dude.
I have to thank my student. That's my student, Jack, from the Sinister Gates guitar school that I do some clinics for. She sent me this for my birthday because it's my Instagram quote.
Oh, that's awesome. Very cool.
Because people are always like, hey, follow me. I'm like, I don't follow, I lead.
Exactly. There you go. That's a very inspiring shirt. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Just like my shirt.
Yeah.
Inspiring.
What is your shirt, Rusty? You just have a
Mine's nothing. It's just generic.
It's because Rusty says everything he wants through his guitar.
Yeah. I express all my feelings, every one of them, not just one, but no.
It's not feeling. It's just notes. It's just
it's just notes, man. It's in the end of the day, it's just all notes, man.
Well, man, I really appreciate you coming on. I've known you for a few years, and it's really great every time we get to chat and hang out. So we'll have you on when we probably do season 2.
Yeah, dude, thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with us today. Really appreciate it, man. It was a lot of fun, and keep us in the loop on release dates and stuff like that, and we'll promote it on the show and let people know about it as well.
Will do, my friends. Thank you so much, guys.
All right, guys. Have a great day, man.
See you, Bill. So yeah, definitely check Bill out on all of his socials and everything. He's a good buddy of mine. I've known him for years, and just a great player. Super. If you're big into, like he said, Yngwie or Halloween and bands like that, like you're really going to appreciate the NorthTale stuff. But you'll also really appreciate everything else that he's done in his previous stuff too, even some of the death metal things that he's done. And he's worked with so many great musicians too.
That's what I was going to say. Be sure to, look up his catalog and check out all of his past work as well. The Cellador stuff, I think, is a cool album still. There's some good stuff on there. And just all the other bands that he's worked with and toured with. Great guitar player, very inspiring, and it's worth checking out.
Other than that, just enjoy the show, subscribe, check out, leave a comment down below, like the video just to help the algorithm. And other than that, I think we're good.
Let's rock and roll, man. Another guitar autopsy. We'll see you guys next time.